Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the managing director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. Sort of floating through the ether of the internet at the moment seems to be this notion of the possibility of what can only really be described as an exit tax or a departure tax from Thailand has recently been brought up over the last couple of days. Now, the news cycle on this has moved really quickly, as we'll get into here in a moment. I want to start by saying that on the record, officials have come out and said that this will not be imposed. So folks that are looking to maybe be tourists here in Thailand this year, or expats who are wanting to live here, possible prospective expats, again, folks that might be moving here to retire and things, understand that while this came out initially as sort of, I guess, a survey as it's been described now, it's not policy. And it was merely a discussion of the possibility of policy. I'll get into that in a minute, but let's preface this by saying this isn't being imposed. So I thought of making this video after reading a recent article from the Bangkok Post, bangkokpost.com. Article is titled, "Departure Tax Proposed." Quoting directly, Thai outbound travelers and foreign permanent residents in Thailand have been asked for their opinion on a government departure tax of 1,000 baht in an attempt to prevent locals from spending excessively abroad, with the Revenue Department announcing online public hearings this week. The department posted the public hearing questionnaire on its website, saying it wants to listen to public opinion about an emergency decree on a departure levy based on a law passed in 1983 in order to assess its impact. The information attached to the poll said the tax aimed to generate revenue for the government and prevent Thais from excessive overseas spending, with a focus on reducing the trade deficit. Well, I thought that was interesting. So, and there's another article that goes even further, but I went ahead and just Googled it. What's Thailand's balance of trade? And under the heading of Thailand balance of trade on the website tradingeconomics.com, that's tradingeconomics.com, it states, Thailand unexpectedly logged a trade surplus of USD 2.72 billion in March 2023. So the notion of this being based on sort of a trade deficit issue, I don't see really where that's coming from. Now, again, as I said at the beginning of this, it's been stated that this will not be imposed, which brings us to another article from the Bangkok Post. Again, bangkokpost.com. Article is titled, "Departure Tax Just Opinion Survey, quote, will not be imposed," unquote. Quoting directly, Winit Witset Suwanapum, Deputy Director General of the department, said on Sunday that the department did not plan to impose the departure tax. I state that again. Said on Sunday that the department did not plan to impose the departure tax. Notice it's did not plan to. So for now, maybe. But again, I'm really not wanting this video to come off as something that would be viewed as fear-mongering. Let me get to the rest of this quote. Mr. Winit said, although a ministerial regulation has waived the departure tax since 1991, the Constitution required the department to assess the suitability of the old executive decree. Well, okay, fair enough. Makes sense that, yeah, they've got some protocol where they have to go in and review this thing because it's technically on the books. I've done videos in the past on what are called tax clearances. There was this regime, and as noted, in 91 they suspended it and they stopped using it. At the time, it was my understanding, and again, I wasn't here then, but it's my understanding based on what I've read that it was phased out as the VAT was brought in. When they brought in value-added tax to Thailand, they said, yeah, okay, we're going to go ahead and get rid of that so-called exit tax. It was something else. I know some old hands here. I won't name any names. In fact, I'd really like to, because I think credit where credit is due, but I don't want to do that to somebody without their permission. But I know someone specifically who had a lot to do with tax clearances back in the 80s, and it wasn't fun. In fact, it really was, in my opinion, pretty bad policy, especially for a country that takes a lot of revenue in from tourism. Not a good look. As we could see with the immediate response to them even bringing this up, sort of even academically, if you will, at this time, I think as you can see, the news cycle moved pretty fast on this. Departure tax proposed article, and then boom, like on a weekend, a government official came out and said, no, we're not doing this. So again, let's be clear about what they're doing here procedurally. What they're doing is discussing a rule that technically was on the books and has been waived in an ongoing manner since 1991. I don't see any reason to believe this is going to come back. What I do think is probably happening is, yes, indeed, procedurally they brought this up. What I also can see, and as we'll get into in other videos I'm making contemporaneously with this one over the course of this coming week, please stay tuned. Yeah, there is a little bit of a trend going on right now wherein essentially government here in Thailand, specifically the revenue department, is looking for ways to drum up more revenue. And this may have been sort of in line with that theme. They just kind of were looking at it as perhaps one possibility. The ongoing discussion of a possible tourist tax has been bandied about. And then meanwhile, as we'll get into in other videos, Revenue Department itself has announced that they're basically looking at other methodologies, including digital, to up tax revenues. I would go ahead and say that perhaps one of the reasons that revenue is down from a tax perspective, kind of the fact that for 2.5 years the entire economy was effectively moribund, and that we were under a constant lockdown where people couldn't open their businesses, they couldn't do business, and it was difficult, if not impossible in some circumstances, for tourism to even exist. Now, I want to be clear. I'm really proud of the way Thailand took on that whole situation and did the best they could with a bad situation. But if we're being honest, moving forward, if you really want to keep tax revenues up, let people do business. That's probably your best bet, rather than looking for ways to tax people on their way out or tax people coming in. Maybe just leave tourism alone because it's a proven money getter, and just let people do their business. And maybe, hate to say it, there might be lower revenues for the government, which means the government's not going to be able to do all the things that they love to do for the next forthcoming few months, perhaps years. I'm here to tell you, small business owners here in Thailand had to put up with that for 2.5 years, a situation where they didn't exactly get to spend the money that they wanted to spend because they couldn't do business. So the thing to take away from this video is, first, understand this proposal, it's not happening. This is simply, it's almost like, it's like a call for comment, like a comment period. It's not even really that, it's more informal even than that. But it's somewhat analogous to that in the context of, for example, American federal law, like call for comment for like federal regulation changes or something like that. It's not even that formal, it's just kind of it's like an opinion survey or whatever. In any event, though, this underlying theme, and we'll get into it further in other videos, again, as I'm making contemporaneously with this one, there is this kind of underlying theme that, yeah, clearly I can see that the Revenue Department is concerned about revenue in Thailand. Well, you know what? If you want more tax revenue, let's let people do business.